And I am back here on the channel. And welcome to the Phantom Zone reviews. Today I'm going to create a new corner. This is called the Streaming Zone. And in the Stream Zone, I'm going to pick out a couple of different things to watch and or bring you a review on. And naturally, the first thing I wanted to talk about was Amazon, seeing as to I switched from Netflix because their content was dwindling and I haven't liked it in some time. And I started watching The Boys, and when I first started watching this, I thought that this would be some SJW garbage. But upon further examination between what the comic is and what the show appears to be, I've realized the error of my ways, and being a DC villain, I am happy to bring you a DC show that is actually worth watching. The Boys stars Carl Urban, Jack Quaid, Anthony Starr, and if you don't know who Anthony Starr is, see my review on Banshee. Banshee is a masterful show that was created, and Anthony Starr played the main character for about 4 years, and he was terrific. So him in the lead role, once again, is just glorious. We have Aaron Moriarty, D'Amico McEllick. We've got Jesse T. Usher, Laz Alonso, Chance Crawford, Tomer Capone, Karen Fanucci, and of course we have Simon Pegg. Now, if you don't know who Simon Pegg is, Simon Pegg does a brilliant movie that's one of my favorite British films, Shaun of the Dead. And here's the kicker about this. For anyone who does not know what this is based off of The Boys comic book. And in the comic book, the main character, played by someone differently in this television show, Huey, is actually drawn from Simon Pegg's image, with Simon Pegg's blessing. As a matter of fact, he was a big fan of the comics, and Garth Ellis, who makes the comic books, came to him and said that he wanted to do a character that was essentially his likeness, and he gave him the go-ahead. And let me give you some context before we start this review. Just a little brief history. Garth Ennis has created some great works. Garth is one of my favorite people who writes outside the box. Now, if you don't know his body of work, so far most of his work has been adapted. So, for instance, Preacher. Preacher was his comic, and it's been adapted by AMC. Now, The Boys is adapted by Amazon, and his run in The Punisher, yes, he worked for Marvel as well before jumping ship to DC. He was directly responsible for Punisher Max, which was the extremely violent version of The Punisher, and spawned Warzone, which was later adapted to a movie, Punisher Warzone. So Garth is a very well-known artist in the comic book world, and he is glorious in his telling of stories. The Boys is... I've read The Boys. I've read all of the volumes, and the comic is extraordinarily violent, explicitly graphic, sexual scenes, very much into the storytelling of how most of these graphic novels are, such as Sin City and things like that. So adapting The Boys is a tough sell and could only work on a streaming service. And it's particularly interesting that not only did Amazon grab one season, but they grabbed 2. So I was going to do these as a set but I thought, you know what? I want to do an analysis. I want to do a breakdown of each individual episode. After I get to the last one, then I'm going to do a roundtable discussion with some fellow colleagues of the Fandom Zone to elaborate our thoughts and feelings on the season as a whole. So let's start with episode 1. And episode 1 of the show is entitled... Episode 1 is entitled The Name of the Game. Now, here's the great thing. If you have not read the comics, the episodes are actually entitled based on the comic arcs. And what I mean by that is, issues 1 through 5, the name of the game is the arc for that. So there's about 5 books that go with the name of the game. And it's kind of funny because each episode seems to follow in that order. So let me give you a brief synopsis, a rundown of what this episode is about, and then I'll give you my good, my bad, and I will do a comparison to the comic and let you know how accurate it is. So, in the name of the game, we have Huey Campbell. Huey is basically a nobody. He is someone who everyone steps over, no one really respects, and he is very, very expertly casted and played by Jack Quaid. And Huey's character is pivotal to setting up for this, because you have to establish the dynamic between Huey and who would come in later, but I don't want to spoil this for you guys. This is a non-spoiler review, so let's just say Huey is a central character, and he is outside with his girlfriend. They just got married. He's in a job that's dead end, yada, 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 and a speedster by the name of A-Train comes barreling through and just simply obliterates Huey's girlfriend. And I mean to great horrific detail. Now, this is a thing I want to highlight. It was changed from the comic, because in the comic version, it was set up that A-Train went through Huey's girlfriend just like in the show, but he was battling a supervillain and didn't really care about where the girlfriend was in trajectory to where he threw the villain. So he throws the villain, runs through the girl, and then slams the villain into the wall, saving the day. Now, I don't know how I feel about the setup particularly, because I thought it gave more depth until I got to later episodes and I realized where they were going. But initially watching this, I did like the original play on A-Train's character, and A-Train in the comics, put simply, is a dick. In this one, I feel like they built him more sympathetic, and honestly, I didn't mind that change. They also race swapped A-Train, and also I didn't mind that change either, because they kept pretty true to what the character was. And like I said, if you're going to race or gender swap characters, you need to have reasons as to how they fit in the world. Just don't do it to do it. Do it because it makes the story better, or it adds something to the story. And honestly, I think A-Train's character comes across better as this version. I like the actor portraying him. Now, after all this happens, we find out that superheroes are controlled by Von Industries. They send someone to essentially pay him off. Now, in comes Carl Urban's character. If you guys don't know who Carl Urban is, he's been around forever. He's done multiple movies, but most notably the Pitch Black series. He did Doom. He did other movies as well. And he is a very underutilized talent, and I feel like casting Billy Butcher, this was one of the best cast I've seen besides Anthony Starr for Homelander. This is just an amazing cast. Carl Urban really nails it. I I didn't think he could pull off the British accent that well, but he did. He pulled off the British accent glorious, and I absolutely loved it. So, long story short, in comes Carl Urban's character, who says he's part of this agency that keeps superheroes in check. Meanwhile, there is another storyline going with this girl, and she is basically she's basically the moral center, basically. Her name is Stargirl. She is new bright-eyed recruit for the Seven, and she's played by Erin Moriarty. Stargirl is a new recruit who happens to get noticed. Lamplighter, a hero that was previously in the group, has retired. They need a new one member to make the Seven, and they recruit her, and right away one of the heroes does something. You have to watch it, but it's really great because it shows that these people, these superheroes, are actually not super at all. They're kind of dicks, and I love how it focuses on the human side of the superheroes. It doesn't just make them like a Superman, a Batman, incorruptible. You actually see they are very much indecent, kind of immoral, and they just have powers. Sure, they stop criminals, they save the day, but the thing that Zod loves the most about this is you see that superheroes are douchebags too, which I enjoy because I am a supervillain and we always get the brunt end of it. But what if the people you call heroes are actually the bad guys? They're the villains. They're the ones who are corrupted, but you don't see it because there's flashy lights, there's PR, and that's what this show does. It makes superheroes like marketed, just like you see a Marvel movie marketed. There's a couple of funny scenes where they're talking about merchandising and they're having a board meeting about who's got how many points and whose stock is up. And I think it's all clever. It adds a layer. It separates itself from the Marvel pack. It separates itself from the DC pack. This show is not necessarily a DC show either. I mean, it's dark, but it's light at the same time, too. There are funny moments in it, but it's really seedy, and it pushes the envelope. Now, here are my good points. The special effects are phenomenal. The acting is good. With most of them, I'll get to that in my bad points. The chemistry between Huey and Butcher, Carl Urban, and Jack Quaid are phenomenal. They got a good back and forth, and I buy their setup. I buy their closeness. I buy how Huey starts out as this pushover, and basically Billy, gives him a kick in the behind and starts him on this adventure. And this is the first episode. This is the setup, the antithesis that will bring us to the rest of the show. So, as per usual, what do I think of this? Zod approves this first episode. Let me give you some bad points, but I approve. So let me get to my negatives, which are just this. I did not like this casting for Stargirl, and while I do like the casting for A-Train, I thought he too is the weakest character amongst the group. So, but in this episode, I don't have very many complaints. It's a great setup. It's a good start. There's a particular scene at the end that lets you know that certain people are not who they appear to be. And all in all, it's a great episode. So if you're going to get into this, you'll know by the first 5 minutes, okay? There's brutal violence. There's brutal swearing. I don't know if you really call it. It's you have to watch it, but it toes the line. Now, here is my discrepancies with some of the comic book material. There's one particular scene, you'll see what it is, but in the comics they changed it. Now, I didn't mind it because what they did in the comics was a little extreme compared to how they presented it here. And, you know, I didn't mind some of the elements being taken out. I understand this is a television show. You have different demographics, so I appreciate the changes because I think some things don't play well, comics versus the show. There is some things missing. I think they're waiting for season 2, but this is just episode 1. Episode 1, Zod approves. Zod very much approves. Watch this episode, and I will tell you, off of the first 5 or 10 minutes, you will determine whether or not you are going to continue on with this show. I literally mean like the first 5 or 10 minutes, you're either going to be on board or you're not going to be on board, and you will understand why when you watch the first 5 or 10 minutes. But other than that, this has been a sort of breakdown and a dive into the overall background. What is this about? I tried to give you a little bit of a segue without giving away too much. So this is episode 1, non-spoiler. I will do episode 1 spoiler, compare and contrast, and then I'm going to break down what they changed from the comic book to what is actually in the show. And you'd be surprised. They actually align with the source material fairly well. I can understand them scaling some things back. Like I said, it's an extreme book. Anyways, thank you very much. This has been your favorite supervillain enjoying the boys because it proves not all heroes are actually heroes. And as always, if you like the content, please hit that subscribe button. If you are new to the channel, if you liked this video, please hit that like button. And as always, remember the golden rule: mortals kneel before Zod. If you like the content, hit that like button. And if you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. Welcome to the Fandom Zone.